Most rock gods are nostalgia merchants, endlessly packaging and selling their own legends. Tonight, I'm joined by the opposite, a man who's never stopped searching for something bigger than himself. Please welcome the passionate Mr. Robert Plant. Robert, such a delight to have you on the show. I want to talk about your passions tonight, starting with your deep interest in non-Western music. And I have a little present for you. This is a bendir drum.
Sure is, yeah.
One of the instruments featured on your current album, Carry Fire. Tell me about it. What does it do?
Well, when I was in my early 20s, living in Britain, I was drawn to the sound of the scales of North Africa, the musical scales, which are totally different to what we deal with in Western pop. So I went off to Morocco, 22 years old, and you walk out into the souk, and you can hear this music. It's like a kind of lure. And all the time you've got that sort of thing. So it was all about polyrhythmic stuff, because I came from a kind of rock and roll blues-based life as a kid. But then I found that rock and roll had kept everything down to a very straightforward beat. And so when I got to Morocco, I heard all this stuff going on, and it was like so alluring. Through Led Zepp, we managed to visit 2 or 3 songs, 4 Sticks, No Quarter, Friends, and to a degree, Kashmir. But all the time we were leaning more and more into this idiom. And also, I mean, dynamically, when you're trying to create a body of work and you're passionate about it, you need to have all these various elements. Otherwise, it's pretty boring.
If the basic rhythm of rock and roll is about sex, what's the basic rhythm of North African music about? More
sex than you can imagine. Well, it's quite a seductive thing, and there are quite a few different rhythms, especially in Egypt and places like that, which are primarily for various elements of songs which imply seduction and stuff like that. And at this time in my career, that sounds like a great idea, doesn't it? But
so it's half rhythm, half Viagra?
Yeah, well, I don't know about, I've never even seen that stuff, but I've heard a lot about it. Just keep light-footed and you never need it.
Now, I want to take you back to where your love of rock and roll started, and I've got a little present for you, which is this. Do you recognise this item?
Oh, my goodness, yeah. That's a dance set, but it's not the Conquest Auto Major. My goodness, that's the first record I ever had.
Johnny Bennett's Dreaming. Do you want me to put it on?
Yeah, please.
Now, this could take a little while, because I haven't used an actual record player in 100 years, but...
Dreaming, I'm always dreaming.
I might just fade Johnny down there, because obviously we can't afford the royalties for the second verse. But...
No.
But this was the first record you were ever given, is that right?
Yeah, my mum and dad gave it me for my 12th Christmas. And that was good, because they were pleased about that. My mum used to sing it very happily around the house. And it was going all right for about the first 6 months, and then I started bringing in this black R&B stuff. And if you pick up the little arm here, like this, then it plays over and over and over, and forever repeating itself. And when you hear some kind of New Orleans R&B in Worcestershire, when I'm supposed to be doing my geometry homework, and all I'm doing is wondering what it's like to be in the French Quarter in New Orleans with all that music, my parents kindly cut the plug off. And that was the beginning of the great revolution for me, because I realized that something was in me that was looking for that sound, you know.
You said that when you were quite young, you realised you had a voice that people wanted to hear. What was it they wanted in your voice?
I don't know whether I really said that, but I perhaps said that later. Because at the time, I was so captured by the emotive stuff. I mean, a lot of the very early Elvis Presley stuff, when you flipped the record over, you got some of the most amazing singing. When he was on fire, his voice, he carried all the resonance of black South Tennessee. I was only a kid when I got switched on. And it wasn't about stardom, and I mean, he was not a bad-looking guy, okay, point taken. But the thing is, none of that mattered to a 12-year-old kid.
Yeah.
You know, what mattered was something was tapping me all the time on the shoulder and saying, where's that coming from, you know?
You met Elvis many years later in the early 70s in Vegas. Yeah. What kind of man was he?
Well, first of all, he didn't take himself at all seriously. And that was the great thing. So, you know, you would think that when you meet somebody who's such a deity as that, you're going to have to negotiate an ego and all the stuff that I'm used to in the game.
Yeah.
But he was really interested to meet us because he knew that despite the kind of swagger of Led Zeppelin, the deal was that we were and remain, in many respects, huge music fans. The setting was amazing. He'd played a gig, and we knew that we were being, you know, there was a request that he wanted to meet us. And so we went to see the gig, and halfway through, he was playing a song called Reconsider Baby, a Lowell Fulson track. And somebody messed up in the band on the stage, and he stopped the song, because he was the master of his own. He didn't have to do any fancy stuff. He was just doing it. And he said, wait a minute, we got Led Zeppelin in here tonight. We got to do better than that. And, you know, the truth of the matter is I understand how he could say all that now.
Yeah.
Because an artist will spend a lot of time being so sort of almost tense with delivery. But when you get beyond that, you move through onto the next place. That's why Elvis could say stuff like that. He could just stop the whole thing and say, wait a minute, you know, while all this underwear was being thrown at him. And
in what way was he funny about himself?
well, he knew that you can't ever take it seriously about other people, the hysterical impression of fame and where it takes you. So you can become a prisoner of that. And sadly, he was a prisoner of that.
Did he know that?
Yes, he knew that, and he had no way out.
You've escaped from it.
Yeah, but I was never a big cheese like that. I mean, I was just part of a big cheese.
Well, you were voted the greatest voice in rock and roll by fans and critics.
Yeah, but where are the people that voted for that last night? I was in Melbourne. I only saw a couple.
They're here tonight, yeah. Is it,
Well, the first gig in Sydney, this is Sydney, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, this is.
The first gig here was at the something theatre. Front row, right-hand side, bloke snoring.
Really?
Yeah. And he had one of my T-shirts on, the lot. He got all the gear on, and he was living it up.
Did you wake the guy up? Did you?
No, I said to everybody, it was a straight theatre. State. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know too many straights.
We've legalised gay marriage. We don't have a straight theatre now.
Yeah. We should work together more often, you know. Anyway, I said to the audience at the end, when we'd taken a bow, we played a whole lot of love, the place was on fire, and the guy was... And I said, when you leave the building, leave quietly, let him be. Because he was blowing bubbles.
Is it true that John Bonham used to say to you in Led Zeppelin, look, you're not that good a singer, so just go out and look good?
Yeah. He said, yeah, he did quite often. I mean, John and I have been playing together since we were too young to drive a car. So he was in a band when we called the Crawling King Snakes, and I mean, when Zeppelin was on fire, you have to understand that equipment wasn't what it is now. So the whole thing was like, it was quite an interesting night. Some nights it was amazing, and some nights it wasn't quite as good. And I know some nights I wasn't very good. I was just sung out. So we'd come off stage, and in the break he'd say, well, look, it doesn't matter, you're not very good anyway, but just go out and look good, it'll be... You know. So I'd break his nose. I'd give him a good smack.
How good do you reckon your voice is?
Well, I think it's done some good things for me in the last 20 years. It's really...
Just the last 20 years?
Well, for me now, what happened before that? I have no idea.
I've got a man with a T-shirt who can help you.
Yeah. Well, he's dreaming it all. It's like one of those strange books. You dream the whole thing. But I think I've got a good thing going on within myself as to how to do it. I read these reviews that say, yeah, he's got a great voice and it's this, that, blah, 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 but he can't do what he used to do. And I think, wait a minute, I'm doing beyond that now. I think it's, I don't know how good it is, I just know how good I feel about it.
If I wanted to sing like you, how would I go about that?
Well, you know much about castratis.
I'm not a fan of Italian food, but... No, I mean, clearly, yeah. Even though I am sometimes mistaken for you, I'm not going to sing like you. But if I wanted to, how do I get passion into my voice the way you do?
Well, I mean, life's rich pageant gives you a lot of things, It's not just the rich hippie travel documents that I carry and all that. It's just feeling it all. You know that. I mean, you're a master of what you do. I really like what I do. And this guy told me just before the show that he was responsible for one of the greatest gifts I ever received, which was a VHS of how many versions? 12?
No, there were too many, 26, I think.
Versions of Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was, it arrived, and while certain other people I know were smouldering and looking for a wand, this is amazing. So,
what's your relationship to that song now?
It was a great achievement, and you can only sing great achievements for so many years before you have to move into another place. I think it's the whole deal about creativity. I think if you have to live within your own songs, you have to give them respect, but you have to keep them to one side and just keep moving on. You know, you have periods of time in your life, you can go back and visit them. And it's a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
You know them. How often do you take your old wife out?
My old wife?
Yeah.
I'm terrified for both of us now that you said that. You've had such a long and interesting career, and of course a few urban myths have accrued to that. You once were a runner-up in an Elvis Presley impersonation competition.
Yeah, in Beijing, yeah.
In Beijing?
Yeah.
Please explain.
Well, I was on the Saki, and there was a Taiwanese guy who'd chosen Elvis, and Logan, my boy, said, "Go on, Dad, you can do Elvis. That's all you ever do, really. You're a pub singer." So I said, "All right, then I'll have a bash." So it was all based on the applause. And I was just giving it large and using the hips and, you know, and I came second.
To a Taiwanese Elvis, that is brilliant.
Yeah.
Is it true that Benny and Bjorn from ABBA once took you to a Swedish sex club?
Absolutely, quite regularly. We were recording the very last studio album, In Through the Outdoor, and they said to it, they contacted us and they said, why don't you use Por la Studio? And you can use it for nothing. It's got a great sound, and it had a really contemporary desk to record. And all you've got to do is pay for the tape and the engineer. Well, being a bunch of cheapos, we used to go up to Stockholm on a Monday, come back on a Friday night for the soccer. And, well, what else are you going to do in Stockholm? You know, it was the funniest thing was, and I mean, I'm exaggerating now, the media being what it is, I have to say, it's not true. But had it been true, then it was funny that everywhere we went, there was a phone ringing, and the ladies from ABBA were looking for the men from ABBA, because obviously Sepp was on the town in the nicest possible way with Benny and Bjorn, and they'd say, come have a look at this and have a look at that. And Agnetha and so on were going, where the hell are those guys? Get back here now, your tea's cold. It was very funny. But no, in no sex clubs, especially not the round mattresses with the zip down the middle.
OK. Can you tell me more about the round mattresses with the zip down the middle that you didn't see?
No. Well, our first ever Swedish presentation of a gold disc was very kind of the Swedish, the Atlantic Recording Corporation, Warner Brothers in Stockholm. But we insisted that the presentation should take place whilst that sort of activity was going on the circular mattress with the zip down the middle. So you've got this very serious picture of us holding the discs, while if you look a little bit lower down, I found, oh, shit.
What is it that makes a great rock and roll frontman, and who are the great ones?
I think it's you know, what do they call it? Lobotomy. I think it's a very tough call, because it's like a mathematical thing. If you do it too long, you lose the edge, and you aren't really the front man anymore. You're just a marionette, you know. So it's just keeping it vital and actually holding attention. So if you want to know who a great front man is, really at the front of it all, most all of them are, because they're working, all these guys are working around the parameters of the music that they're playing.
Sure.
So if you think about Mick Jagger, for what that is, he's not only did he invent it, but he continues to get it down really well. I mean, he does that, that's what he does. Bono, same thing, you know, everybody at the front of something is, you go into character no matter what, you know. You can't go too much into remote control. You've got to really give it. And that's the good thing about bands like the Stones, is that they do it so seldom that it's got to be almost fresh.
And there was a really great piece about you on Vanity Fair a few years ago, where you said to the journalist, there were some nights I'd be on stage and I'd look out at the audience and I'd just want to fuck the whole front row. What makes a night that good?
Well, I think I might have been exaggerating.
Half the front row?
No.
No, but that sense of,
yeah.
I mean, the audience looks at the rock god out there and thinks that must be the best thing in the world.
How old was I when I said that sort of thing? For Christ's sake. The great thing about maturity is that sooner or later you realize most of the stuff that you've said is just off the cuff at the spur of the moment, and, you know, you have to live with it.
A few years ago, President Obama honoured Led Zeppelin at the Kennedy Center, and Hart did a performance of Stairway to Heaven with Jason Bonham, John Bonham's son, on drums, and a 100-piece choir. You look pretty emotional there.
Well, yeah, I was, because I didn't think it could have a life like that.
Really?
The song, yeah. And in the middle of it all, because it was a complete surprise, and in the middle of it all, there's John's son playing drums, and it was a great move, and I did have a lot to do with that song,
yeah,
you know, creatively. And I'd kind of put it into a certain place, that's where it lived forever. So when I saw it like that, I realized how dramatic the various progressions of the song were. And also, I hated the idea of being at the point that I have to do that I have to go and hear other people pay tributes.
You mentioned Jason Bonham, John's son. John was basically your best friend, wasn't he?
Well, a lot of the time when we didn't fight. But I think really we came from the same place, from the Black Country in England, and neither of us took prisoners. You know, a spade has always been a spade, especially between us two. We weren't the same as the other two guys. We came from a different place.
John died when he was 32 after a long drinking session. You've had nearly 40 years more life than him. Do you look back and think, what a waste?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what a shame.
Yeah.
And what a waste. Yeah.
A few years before John died, you had a bad car accident and nearly died yourself. And just looking at the way you've kept moving since Led Zeppelin, how loudly do you sense the clock ticking?
Well, I knew how loud it ticked in 1975 because I was in a wheelchair 7 months, you know, and everything around me was in pieces. Bones were shattered, you know, everything, skulls broken, all that sort of thing. And through that period from the mid-70s to when John passed away, there were a lot of things going on that, that made me cherish life and family and friends and loyalties and that sort of thing. So I don't think the clock's ticking away. Is it? I've been here too long already, look.
It's a significant birthday for you this year. How do you approach that? With
Caution and prophylactics. No, with, can you imagine? Fucking. It's a good job this is a joke, isn't it, really? Well, I love what I do, so I've got plenty of gigs till at least I'm 1 year older than that. I've got a great, very simplistic social life back in the UK. And I like to get out and, you know, feel the elements around me. So I should be eternal until I've had it.
I think you're being a bit humble. You've just blown everyone away at Byron. I'm going to show a little bit of a clip of you with your the title track of your album, Carry Fire. Check this out. Your voice still sounds beautiful. If it did start to give way, I mean, Frank Sinatra's did eventually, how would you cope?
I'd just get a different gig, I think, somehow. I don't know.
What would you do?
I always wanted to do dry stone walling in the Outer Hebrides, Scotland. Something like that, you know.
You would be the most awesome dry stone waller that ever lived, in my opinion.
I'm never going to live this down. I feel like Jethro Tull now, something like that. Some kind of weirdo guy. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'll keep it going.
I think the good news is there's always going to be a demand. Robert Plant, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you.